those, and
And I'll try to reach out to some of our other guys. I don't know if the reminder went out to everybody.
I saw it. In fact, I just saw it twice. So let's see. Bob, make me host if I'm not right now.
You are host, and I have nothing. So
And you are now co-host. So there
okay.
you go. Master Smith, I'll get all of our recording stuff going, and we'll get let people in as they get here.
This meeting is being recorded.
So welcome. Timothy, while I'm getting this stuff set up, do you have any questions?
Nothing comes to mind right now. I was kind of between things in a rush to get ready for this meeting, so I'm feverishly trying to find my notes in case you have any questions for me about what I've been up to.
Oh, there you go.
And actually, you had a couple of good results here recently, right?
Oh, yes, I have. Yeah.
Yeah.
Share that with us.
Well, so I put together my Parthenon, and it was a little bit challenging to think of things to do, having a smaller operation, everything like that, and limited funds. But I did come up with a Parthenon that I'm fairly satisfied with. Started implementing that, and mind you, I usually have a really hard time this time of year. I have leads coming in, conversions happening, and it's going quite well. And I'm only like, 5 into the Parthenon of 20.
Good. Awesome. Good. Well, what have you done that has worked so well so far?
So I did Facebook organic, Facebook paid, Instagram paid. The Facebook and Instagram paid actually fell flat on their face. And I tried to do something different with that. In the past, I used to just do like an ad for one of my programs, but I tried boosting a post of like a popular technique demonstration and turning that into an ad. Didn't work out at all on Instagram or Facebook. I've been watching a lot of your videos, and you kind of advocate for, past customers or people who reached out who were leads in the past. You keep contacting them. And since I have a small operation, I can do that personally. I don't have to use AI or anything. So I kind of went down the list and reached out to people and said, hey, I remember training with you last year. You have a good sidekick, whatever. Here's the new stuff I got going on. So that was really successful. I made a bunch of flyers and got those distributed as well. And I updated some of my stuff out there with stronger calls to action.
Timothy, did you get to see the second?
Matt Smith, you might turn that ringer off so we don't get the chirping the whole meeting.
That's not my ringer. That's the birds in the room.
That's your text message notification. There's a little button right there. You just turn it off and you're good to go.
It's off. It's off. I didn't want to miss your text to me before.
that there was none. Okay.
Timothy, did you get a chance to see the second week of our 8-week training program?
I don't recall. I'm not sure.
Well, you would know it if you did see it. If not, go back to week 2 of that 8-week program. Do you know where that is?
It's in the box. It's not listed that way, but on the access to it, it may be. But he's talking about the Complete Failure School program that comes with this.
Oh, okay. No, I did not see that.
In the second week, I had 3 videos that Master Oliver and I did. An hour each on grassroots marketing, and it gives you about 50 to 60 things you could do that are a low cost or a no cost. But of course, nothing's free, so it does cost time, but not money. Right. And that's what we find very helpful for a lot of our new members. And what they forget to do is to go there and write all those things down and categorize them to make sure that you're using the full Parthenon, which is internal marketing activities, external marketing activities, and then your internet or Google stuff. So you got all 3. So you're hitting on all cylinders And each one of those, you get 3 or 4 or 5, 6 things going. And that's how, like Ben Brown, in his first month, he started towards the end of November of last year. And in December, he had 35 enrollments.
Right.
And he was doing about 15,000 cash. And in December, he hit 35, which obviously was his all-time high.
Yeah.
And everybody was asking him what he did. And he said, well, I didn't know what to do. So I just went to that grassroots marketing and did as many as I could. And even if I didn't know how to do it, I winged it. And all of a sudden I had all these intros and I converted about half of them.
Yes, sir. Wow.
And he's referring to this, Timothy, and I'll post it again, the link in the Facebook group. But this section here, A to Z Grassroots Marketing Plan, it should be planned by Grandmaster Jeff Smith. So there's 3 segments. I think it's almost 4 hours, 3.5 or more. See
the Post-it pad behind me? We were listing them all, so there's about 50 or 60 there that we're talking about, but even go to there and pause it and write all those down, and then you'll hear us talking about them as we go.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And I'll go ahead and post this link in the Facebook group again.
So I'm glad to hear that you're already, without even seeing that, you're already putting several things together and increased your intro flow this month. So that's a real positive. Thanks for doing that.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
What's been really useful for me has really just been the paradigm change of thought in general, where, it's marketing and sales. I'm thinking completely differently. So the program's been really useful already. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, let's get as focused as we can here. Alex, how's your forward momentum?
Not super. I have 2 new clients. One was a walk-in. One is a woman that I met through, I joined the Springfield Chamber of Commerce. We have weekly meetings, meet with all the local businesses. I got one from that, but I lost a family because he lost his job. So the 2 individual plans that I got kind of made up for the family that we lost. I did have one family that came in. I talked to Mr. Smith about this. It was my understanding that it was a single mother household. So I had all of the decision makers that were there, and it was not. She signed up. She gave me the credit card information, all of that good stuff. And I got a call soon thereafter, said, Dad's not digging it. So I felt like I had a family and lost that one. But I've been hitting the grassroots marketing super hard. I've passed out thousands of rack cards. I've got a Ronald McDonald House fundraising event coming up in a couple weeks. McDonald's is going to start passing out flyers in their to-go bags for that event. I've got yard signs that I've distributed to all of my students, and it's up around a 3-mile radius of the school. And so I'm busting my ass. I'm just not seeing any clients yet.
Well, let's start with kind of 1, 2, 3. Give you some analysis of what you said. Okay. There's no such thing as a single mother household, with the exception of dad is dead or in jail, and one thing or another. And so what happens is when you're in the enrollment process is the mom lies to you most of the time. And I don't mean even that they are conscious of it. But what happens is if dad has any level of visitation rights or has any level of financial responsibility at all, you've got to have both parents involved. And sometimes you have to have both parents and the stepmother and the stepfather, or the, both stepmothers, depending upon what the, situation is. And sometimes you need the grandmother and so forth to make a decision. And always the worst person to try to go talk the ex-husband or, ex whatever, who's responsible into contributing financially is her, right? So you never allow that to happen. And it's one of the things that we drill in the sales process, right? And the second element of kind of what I was hearing is, if we go to, and this is where I wanted to kind of circle back and start with today. If we go to what are the things that we can do that are almost always guaranteed home runs, and then what are things that we can do that are support tools, and what are things to do that if we have nothing better to do, to go do it. All of the different things we talk about kind of fit into those categories in some way, shape, or form. I was just having a conversation with Dan Kennedy, who I've worked with and know him forever, and his basic proposition nowadays is, he'd rather have offline leads than online leads any day of the week, kind of regardless of where they're from. As a short summary, but Timothy, what you were saying about, I have a post and I boost it. That's, when we're doing effective Facebook advertising, we tend to do effective Facebook advertising with a couple $1,000s a month budget. We're using an agency to do it. It's getting, thousands of views and 30 to 60 leads at a cost all inclusive of, maybe $60 to $100 a lead, which converts to $400 or $500 per enrollment. So but Alex, when you talk about the Parthenon, well, when you say thousands of rack cards, do you mean that you had thousands of different places that this distributed, or you mean you printed 5,000 or 6,000 cards and you have different places with holders in them?
I've handed out probably 1,000 rack cards to maybe 30 different businesses locally.
Okay. When you say you've handed out 1,000, what do you mean by that?
That means I'm walking around and I'm trying to talk to all of the owners to see if they'll allow me to place the rack cards. I've also offered.
Okay. So
yeah.
So right there, does that mean you've got the plexiglass holders or the paper holders, and we're putting them on the counter, or what are you doing with them?
So some of them are putting them on the counter. Some of them have rack displays that they already have. Some of them are allowing me to do them for a short period of time. So it depends on the place on how they're allowing me to place them.
But in basic terms, do you have a little Plex or paper holder, and the idea is put it on the counter and have it there?
Yes.
Okay. Let me give you some rule of thumb numbers. Is what we've seen is with maybe 300 retail locations, it's good for 3 to 5 enrollments a month, kind of on average consistently. So if I have the pizza place, the dry cleaners, the carry out chicken place, the orthodontist, everything else, just, a whole bunch of retail establishments that have the thing sitting somewhere, near the cash register or somewhere where it's visible, that maybe that's good for 3 enrollments a month. And so where I think people get confused is, I went around to a bunch of merchants and he took 50, and God knows what he did with them. He took one for himself to, give to his employee. But 30 cards in a holder, 50 cards in a holder, out at 300 different merchants, out there consistently, seems to on average be good for 2, 3, 4 enrollments a month, right? So that's one of those, personally, for my schools. If I'm prioritizing, it goes at about number 15 on the list, but it's still going to be on the list because it works, it's effective, and so forth. Passing out flyers. I've told the story many times, probably you've already heard this one, but I was speaking at YK Kim's event, and there was a real nice gentleman, Korean school owner, And he just kind of offhandedly said that his school does 50 new students a month. And I was also speaking in the group, but nobody asked him how. So I asked him, and he said, "Oh, we just do flyers." And I said, "Oh, do you have a copy of the flyer?" And he did. And so he shows it to me, and got to tell you, it was nothing special. And so the natural question is, how many flyers do you put out per month? And his answer was 100,000 a month. So 100,000 a month was generating, approximately 50 enrollments a month. So it doesn't take much advanced level math to figure out what is that. 50 divided by 100,000. I guess it does take advanced level math because I keep hitting too many zeros. 50 divided. What's the percentage there, Master Smith? You're still good with numbers in your head. So that's.
He would have 25 with 50. He'd have 12.5 with 25,000 that he put out. He'd have 6 with if he put out 12,500.
But that's the percentage. So if you move the decimal over 2 points, it's 0.05%, right? So it's what is that? 0.5% is what the average return rate is, right? So if I put out 1,000 flyers,
I already calculated.
Yeah. If I put out 1,000 flyers, I might get on average half. So statistically, 1 or 0, but
10,000 is going to get you about 4 or 5.
Yeah, and so when you do an analysis of what you just said, right, is I'm always listening for, did we have a big fair where there were 5,000 people there, we had a booth, and we were able to make 50, 75, 100 appointments, because that's a home run? Or did we go into an elementary school and do PE teacher for the day and get 400 permission slips and have something to follow up there, right? And when those are the things that are big home runs. So in my case, when I, over the years, and Matt Smith, you did the same thing, but kind of parachuted in to turn around the school, it was almost always one or two things. They either weren't getting enough leads or they were crappy at closing them. And if they were crappy at closing them, I could go in and just, they had 20 intros and we're closing 4. I could do 20 intros and end up with 25 enrollments, because not everybody enrolled, but a bunch of them we added family members. Or they weren't getting enough leads. And if it wasn't getting enough leads, my priority order is, let's go find some big events. Let's get in some elementary schools. If we're not in the elementary schools, let's go get into all the daycares or other places like that. And then it was, if I got kids who are sitting here with nothing better to do, I'll recruit them to go put flyers out in the Target parking lot or something like that. But the response rate on the flyers were, like we were saying, 1,000 flyers, maybe you get 0, maybe you get 1. If you got 300 rec cards out in placements there over a month and a half, maybe you get 2 or 3 enrollments. So those tend to be the things that have real low return. And the reason for doing something like the Ronald McDonald House thing combined with Burger King, combined with pizza, is maybe I can get 100,000 flyers out. So all of a sudden I get 25, 30, 40 people, and me getting 100,000 flyers out by going door to door and hanging them on door hangers isn't going to happen. And frankly, for me to rustle up the budget and pay a distribution company to do it, I got to have some critical mass in order to get there. Does that make sense?
Can I add a couple of things there, Master Oliver, that you said? Alex, for instance, what we like our new members to do is to try to get more bang for the buck, or more bang for the time, right? We know rack cards and bandit signs are what we call a supplement to your other stuff. Usually somebody will see you 2 or 3 places maybe before they come in. So if you only go do one thing, then you're probably not going to get much traction from it. A good example, our biggest home runs for most of our members has been our prize wheel, our spin wheel. And for instance, at our live event, we had Scott Sullivan from Houston. And he said that he almost didn't come because they had a big event, a live event where they were going to have their spin wheel and set up their booth. And he was leaving it in the hands of some of his staff that haven't done it before. And even though he trained them, he was very nervous about it. And then he told us on Sunday that, oh, by the way, I heard back from my staff, they got 200 appointments over the weekend when I wasn't there. And he said, I'm so happy that I didn't stay there, because I doubt if I would have done any better than that, because that was pretty good. But I tell you, Alex, it's very typical with most of our members are getting more than 100 to 200 leads at any live event, because they're spinning the wheel, they're filling out the slip. We have all of the step-by-step of how to do that on our member site, that quick start, and also in our Facebook, there's information on it. So if you don't have one of those prize wheels, and if you need to start setting up some of those live events, which can be, some of our members have even done like farmers markets. Colby Winkler got over 200 leads at a marathon, fun run, charity run.
In October, yeah.
And so there's a lot of different things you can do, but you have to look. And most schools, their problem is they say, well, there's nothing going on. Well, that's because they haven't looked. And if you go and use the search functions on Google, it'll tell you what's happening in your community. When I heard you were with the Chamber of Commerce there, that's usually a plus, because usually people are having events or talking about community affairs that are going on, and you can get involved in some of those. This time of year with Halloween, some of our biggest things are these Halloween events that are going on. Trunk or treats are very popular at church organizations and other places in your community. We've had people get up to 100 leads at a trunk or treat type of activity. So this is a real good time for doing those kind of things. When you do the rack cards and the signs, it's very busy work, but you don't get much bang for the buck on it. Other than you're doing other things, and maybe they saw you somewhere else, and then they saw your rack card or your bandit sign, and that gave them the initiative to call you. Same thing with the school program. They saw your sign, or they saw, yeah, you're the guy that we see all over, when I'm driving.
Yeah. So I've had some conversations with administration of the Eugene School District here, and I'm in the works there. I'm trying to get what are they called? Not seminars.
The after school enrichment program, the teacher for the day.
It's the kids come into the cafeteria, and I'm up on stage, and I can't think of the word. I'm sorry, but
assembly.
Yes, anti-bullying assemblies for the 4K district. We're trying to get that going, but I am in with the administration right now with the special needs program, because I've been working so much with special needs, but we're trying to branch out, and so that I can get into the school system and do those anti-bullying things.
Yeah, on the schools, Alex, is what I want you to recognize is that you can end up as entertainment, or you can end up as a classroom environment. If I have a choice of go in for an assembly, and I've done a number of those, we were tight enough that we would get invited to most everything that a lot of them did. But if I have a choice, what I want to do is I want to go into the PE class and actually teach a class. I don't want to stand in front of a group and talk. I don't want to stand in front of a group and talk with a bunch of kids who are going to show off for them, right? So do a demo. So, let's start with the idea that demos don't really work. We all kind of want to do demos. We want to show off our kids. We think people are going to go ooh and ah. But it just doesn't really do much of anything, right? The second thing is that in an elementary school context, going in and giving a speech doesn't do much. The kids don't even remember you were there at the end of the day. If I have gotten something into parents' hands and I haven't gotten their contact information, I've got no outcome, right? So I can do that all day long and get nothing. What I do want to do, though, is I want to do one of several things. The school's having a harvest festival. They're having a back to the school day, night, an orientation day, any of those type of things. Anything where it's after school hours and the parents are there with them. That's the same as any other live event. So I'm now doing a table, a booth. I'm doing registrations. Jan Lappin her school is the one we tend to use as an example, but they did, what was it, Master Smith, 550 appointments in a week from doing back to school orientation days, right? And literally what that means is just before school starts or right after school starts, in the evening, they have a time when the kids bring their parents and they go visit their classroom, meet their teachers, see what's going on. Some of them are pretty organized, so they have the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts, and other activities there. Some of them are kind of disorganized. But regardless, it's something where you can set up a booth. The last one for our Mile High schools that I personally attended, they made, and I say they because I didn't do anything but kind of watch what was going on. But they were there for 2 hours, or maybe it's 3 hours. I don't really remember. But they made 85 appointments from one school. And literally, this one was organized. It was a big charter school. And so they set up in the gym, and every little group, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, us, whatever else they do at the school, just kind of set up, and people kind of queued up in a line and went through each of the booths and signed up for what they were interested in. So that works really well, right? So any type of live event that happens at the school where the parents are there also. The next thing that works really well, and this is something I started doing back in the 80s, and we figured out pretty quickly. Early on, I had the demo team, and Matt Smith, you remember George and Chung and Cynthia Rothrock used to come out and choreograph the demo team, and they looked like a Broadway production. I mean, hell, they were good. Made no difference whatsoever. There was no reason to even bother with having them, other than it became a staff development nucleus for me, kind of like the West Coast demo team with Ernie Reyes. But what did work extremely well is anytime I could go into the school and teach a class, because now the students were feeling like they were students, not just being entertained. But then the problem was you teach a class and you pass out some information. The information doesn't get home to the parents. Sometimes the school doesn't let you pass out all that much stuff, but even if they let you pass out whatever you want, it gets stuck in the kid's backpack or it gets stuck in their back pocket, doesn't really get home to the kids. Speak of the devil there, Master Smith. You were just you talking about Scott behind his back, and he shows up mysteriously. And then he leaves.
He got bumped off. Bob, we kicked him off.
We had Amanda and Scott both show up. We could have put them to work, and then they there he is again. Bob, stop kicking him out. But Alex, so what then works is if I can teach a class, and ahead of teaching class, I get permission slips. And permission slip, what I'm getting is I'm getting name, address, phone number, email address, but mailing address and phone number. And then what it gives me a chance to do, and over the years we added a line which said, all the kids participate in today's class will also receive 2 free weeks of lessons and a uniform worth $50. If you'd like us to contact you to schedule a time for that, check yes. And if not, we never put a no on there, but the yes is permission to call them, because we start having problems with the one person who didn't want to get called in the middle of dinner would complain. Now you don't get that so much because they just don't answer their cell phone, and it adds to that problem. But now 500 kids in the school would get 400 permission slips. Maybe we get 50 to 60 appointments, maybe get 10 or 15 enrollments from that, right? So that's like number one is any kind of live event at the school, Harvest Festival, Halloween, Christmas holidays, whatever it might be. Number two is is this back to school orientation days. Number 3 is PE teacher for the day with permission slips ahead of time. Number 4 is, which is my favorite of the lot, is an after school or before school enrichment program, typically Monday, 2 days a week for 3 weeks or 3 days a week for 2 weeks, but 6 lessons. And then what we do is we do permission slips, PE teacher for the day, promote the after school enrichment program. And now the numbers are 500 kids in the school, 100 registered for the after school enrichment program, 30 of those enrolled. So it'd be about 30, 35, 40%. So about a third would enroll. So you get 100 in the after school enrichment program, enroll about a third. So it'd be 35 enrollments. And that's the type of thing that, like for me personally, I've had days where I enrolled 38 people in one day, months where I enrolled 76 people in a month. Usually that was from like doing the after school enrichment program thing, right? Then the other thing you can do in the schools is a nonprofit fundraiser. And this is back to the Ronald McDonald House. So it's, I'm raising money for Children's Hospital, whatever it might be. Sometimes the school has their own fundraising needs. What I find more recently is the problem is the schools went so far overboard on stuff like that they now are saying, well, we've done our only fundraiser this year. We can't do any more fundraisers. So you don't want to go present this stuff as we're doing a fundraiser. You want to present it as, we're doing this after school enrichment program. There's a small fee for it. What we do is we donate all that back to the school. So they don't have to present it as a fundraiser, and the parents aren't mad that they're doing it just to raise money. Because what was happening for a while, kids are selling chocolate bars and they're doing all this crazy stuff, and people were getting, parents were getting overloaded on, Christmas wrap sales and every other stupid thing. But so now that's the next thing that's pretty productive is an external fundraiser that then they pass out the flyers. The percent return is going to be way below the after school enrichment program, which is better than the gym teacher for the day. But there's not much labor involved. They print the flyers, they pass them out, but I don't want to do it with one school. I wanted to do it with every school in the district, right? I want to do it with every public school, every private school, every daycare. And then I want to, do the same thing at the same time on Pizza Hut, make, Papa John's, Domino's, pizza box deliveries. I want it to be in the McDonald's bags, in the Burger King bags. So if I do that, when we did that, we printed like 100,000 at a time. So of course it had a pretty good return because we were getting them out everywhere, right? And it was relatively inexpensive, 3-4 cents a flyer to print them. So we were getting big distribution. But when you're working with the elementary school, seeing the list of things I was talking about, it's always good to get exposure. What kind of happened in the industry is people started talking about school talks. That was a Barry Vanover thing. Well, that came from my PE teach for the day. They just missed the thing that made it work. So they ended up going into Mrs. Smith's second grade class, and then they'd pass out flyers and say, we have a special class Saturday, you're welcome to come down and get us. It's not that they didn't get anything. It's just that they didn't get much. But when I got permission slips, now my results quadrupled or more. But then when I went from Mrs. Smith's class of 30 kids to the entire school, again, I get a 20-to-1 return, and you get those two things put together, and all of a sudden you get huge results. Hey, Scott, when you were tuning in there, Matt Smith was just talking about you.
It was good.
It was this time.
This time.
I think usually he speaks well of you behind your back. It's just to your face that we have a criticism.
Gotcha.
And that is by the way the rule. You'll with us you'll never get anything harsher behind your back than you get to your face. So if we're talking about you, it's always nicer.
God, it's wonderful.
That was, Stephen Covey's principle of loyalty to the absence, which is an important criteria. But he was just talking about the number of appointments you generated this weekend while you personally,
as
well as your lovely wife, are here in Colorado. Can you tell these guys a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, I've had a hard time getting, turning things over, delegating them, especially events, because it's a lot of work. So my wife and she does a lot of work, lugging stuff around. Anyway, so we had to be at the Denver at the Golden event this week. So I finally said, we're going to have this whole thing run in our absence. So we did. We got a team. We trained them. We had 2 events running simultaneously. And while I was there, learning a bunch of wonderful things, and my wife and I, wonderful things this weekend. My staff did a bang-up job, honestly, just as good, if not better, than when we did it the prior year. So we got
it's always a good sign when your staff does a better job than you do.
Hey, fire myself, and yes, absolutely.
I've said that for 40 years about birthday party and teaching little ninjas. My staff was always.
That's just how good a teacher you are.
Yes, exactly. I'm good at teaching the teachers. Yeah.
So but I found out, Master Oliver, when we were in your living room, ending up on Sunday, that they generated something like 220 appointments in our absence. So what a great thing, So guess what? We've got 2 more events this weekend, and I'm not going to do those either. I'm going to have the staff do those. And I was really inspired by you, Master Oliver. I think you told me you never did one personally. I thought, man, that's cool, So.
Yeah. Well, and to be fair, what I did was I would train them ahead of time, and then I would show up and model the behavior a little bit. But the results were never dependent upon me. The only exception is, every now and then we had a thing where it was teach a class to 400 Girl Scouts or something. And with stuff like that, oftentimes I'd go out and teach the class and facilitate. But even then, if I was there, usually it was to make sure people were getting leads and getting appointments. I oftentimes didn't even, tell them who I was. We had, 3 20-year-olds out there teaching the class, doing a better job than probably I would have done anyway. But that's right.
What's the event? Go ahead. What's the event? You said you had 2 more events this weekend?
Yeah, so that's what I was getting ready to say. So this is our big season. So every October, we do a bunch of events. They have all these fall events. Hey, Amanda. We have all these fall events, pumpkin patches and Halloween this, and we've been doing it for a few years. So we got like our list. And how many total events do we have?
Hi. I don't like to be on the camera.
Hi.
So right now, this weekend, we have 3 more events, and then total for October only, 8 or 9.
8 or 9 events crammed in 3 weeks or 4 weeks, so we can generate up to 500 leads in this short period of time.
No, Scott, at least 1,000, because you're going to average about 100 per event. Yeah. Like this one did 200, maybe the next one does 50. Well, you're still averaging over 100. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you're probably going to be around 1,000. So just be ready to do what the members are always talking about, that we teach them how to drink from a fire hose, because you're going to have your flood coming in. So be prepared.
Yeah. And the first year, I was shocked. You guys taught me how to do it. And the first year we just booked all these events and drinking from a fire hose. Remember how stressed I was? Remember that?
Yeah.
I felt like I couldn't handle them all. You know what I mean? So.
Well, yeah, and then you end up with like 50 enrollments. It was so stressful.
It's terrible.
Poor thing. We felt so sorry for you.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, if you're going to be stressed out and tired, it might as well be with big results rather than no results. Yeah,
that's right, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to be tired either way, right?
Yeah.
But Alex, is this making sense? It's about starting with the things that are going to have a big bang, and I'll tell you what. We want to have 20 different things going on at all times, but the worst thing for your attitude and your stress level and for feeling like you're efforting a lot is to be doing things that don't get much results. And then in your mind, you start saying, well, that doesn't get much results, and I'm not too thrilled about it. And even I'm not sure what the group was. You mentioned Chamber of Commerce
yes.
Yeah, Chamber. See, I over the years stopped doing any of that kind of stuff. Mostly what I found was it was good to build a relationship with them a little bit, just so I could figure out who the members were, figure out what events the Chamber of Commerce was promoting and supporting and so forth. But mostly, we don't find the events through that either. One of the biggest events that we have here in the Denver metro area is this little, facility called the Butterfly Pavilion, where they, breed butterflies and they fly around. And most of their life, it's school buses bringing them up, and the teachers, walk them around and point out this purple butterfly, and this is from the Amazon, and this is this thing. But they have a Halloween deal, and the Halloween deal, it will get anywhere from 80 to 120 appointments in this relatively small facility that people come in through one day and do a little trick or treat thing at the Butterfly Pavilion. I mean, of all things. Our zoo has the same thing, which draws people from all over the metro area. So, back when I had schools spread out all over the metro area, it would have been good. For a single location, it wouldn't be good. But a lot of things like that. I mean, going
Mr.
back.
Oliver, could we ask Brandy, because she seems to be very good. Some of our members are not very good at finding these events. What resource, where are you going to find these types of events, Brandy?
Master Smith, usually it's from schools. That's because we have so many schools around us. So first, always elementary schools, especially in the fall in Houston. I don't know where you are, Sensei Alex, but in Houston, it's hot all summer, so it's harder for us to do events then. But the fall is when everyone starts doing events. I always look on Facebook. They have events that they invite the public to, and sometimes I like those because I can tell what their market is they're, aiming for. And then also anything that may be going on in town. So it's Halloween. So every church around us, I just pay attention to the flyers that start going up. And now we've been doing it since 2018. So now we have this arsenal. And honestly, now they all come back to us every year. And then we give gifts a lot to like daycares or places like that, where we'll give them a basket to raffle off or something for a fundraiser, and they will end up coming back to us too and saying, hey, do you want to do an event? So it was kind of a free giveaway for us, but it ends up actually turning into a student. We've even had those free giveaways turn into black belt students too. So we'll do those. And then like this year, we had a mom who I used to work with her daycare, and she is now in elementary school with her children. And she came and said, hey, can you help us over at St. Mark's this year? So I think just that is that base of people. And the first year, I think we had probably 3 or 4. And now between now and the end of the year, I think we probably have 15 live events before January 1st.
And you reminded me one thing that we did that I'm excited about. I have a meeting next Monday. One of my students, his dad is a pastor, and he runs a youth group. And so I'm going to that youth group to teach them a set of classes and hopefully bring some in for that, which turned into that pastor introducing me to one of his friends who's a pastor at a different church down the road. And so hopefully getting into those youth groups, which I think would also lead into Boy Scouts and things like that. So I feel like I'm slowly picking up momentum, but it's
the other thing for us has been talking to your parents, and we actually just talked about this at the live event, but it happened to me right before. And when we do progress checks, we've been doing them a little bit differently than we had been taught, so they've been a little bit longer. And I've just been using it for rapport building. Well, when I'm doing that, I always find out where they go to school, always. And I'm sitting there talking to mom, and she's like, oh, he goes to Red Elementary. And the next thing she knows, she's like, oh, I'm on the head of the PTO. And I thought, I've been trying to come back to Red for years. And she goes, oh, well, I'll fix it all for you. So it's that really the relationship on the mats is honestly, which is so important anyway. And just talking to them, and you find out very quickly. I have another mom. This actually just happened to another mom from a totally different elementary school we've never been to. She just loves us. And I'm grateful for that. And she just like, I will help you do anything. And so she actually scheduled one of our events for us this weekend and somehow set up some sort of talk we're supposed to give, which I'm going to find out about tonight. So I don't know much about that part. But so what really the relationship with the parents too, because they all go to school. Their kids are all in school.
Yeah, the relationship is already built between the parent and the school. And then every one of your kids in your school has parents, and they go to school somewhere. So a lot of times there's gems in your school that you didn't know about. You just gotta ask.
And you become the go-to guy. That's why Miss Amanda is so good at her community. I mean, like, if anybody thinks of martial arts, they think of Master Mom now because she's been out in the community so much. How about your live events and things that you do, Amanda? Where's your best resource for that?
Well, I think the elementary schools for sure, but I go on social media, and I have I'm a member of a lot of the groups that promote events. Like, we have a downtown group, we have elementary schools will have social media pages too, to get the information out about what they're doing. There's all kinds of social groups on social media that you can join, and you can post your events too. So if you're having an event at your academy, you can post your event, and then you can see what other people are posting, events that they're having, and just connect that way. So that one is really easy, and you also get notifications on those social media groups when somebody's hosting an event. They'll post, and like, oh, okay, I could be a part of that. And once you start looking or get plugged into things like that, there's more than you can possibly do. So you can kind of pick and choose. Yeah, so that's probably, besides like it's already been mentioned, talking to the parents, because we're doing goal setting season now, and so same thing. Oh, what school do you go to? Who's your teacher? Oh, I know them. Or just trying to connect that way. So I'm referrals and social media.
Yeah,
excellent.
Trying to get some advice on one thing that I have. The head coach of the University of Oregon football team, Dan Lanning, his kids have been coming to my dojo for almost a year now. But with all the publicity that Dan gets, I'm trying to figure out a good way to present something to him to help get the word out. But I'm not sure. I think it would have to be a home run or a really good idea to present to him for him to get on board with something. So I'm trying to figure out or pick people's brains. What could it be to get somebody of that caliber involved with the dojo?
Well, he's already involved with the school, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So you already have him involved with the school, and so the lowest hanging fruit, of course, is you do a progress update, you renew the family, maybe you get him into the class as well. But regardless, you get him and his wife, to give you a glowing testimonial. And that's the lowest hanging fruit. You get celebrities who get hired by Honda and GM to be a spokesperson for millions of dollars, but you have somebody who's well known in your local community that loves what you do. They're almost always happy to give you great feedback and of course let you use it in whatever way you want, right? Unless they have some contractual restriction against doing that. So that's super low hanging fruit, and then the question is always, do they have access to media that they can make available to you? Do they have access to some other environment that they have for you? And maybe you can figure out some things to do there or not. At the very least, you've got a celebrity testimonial and endorsement for no cost. That's super low-hanging fruit. Matt Smith, you had a bunch of the Redskins players. I had several marquee, Broncos players over the years, as well as, like the organization's CFO and the Denver Nuggets marketing director and so forth. And it was always really easy for us we have an event and we can promote that they're going to be there and you get a chance to meet them and so forth. Even when I did the Black Belt extravaganzas and the tournaments, oftentimes we'd have the Denver Bronco cheerleaders are going to be there, and Carl Mecklenburg or Steve Sewell or Steve Watson or somebody that everybody in town knew was going to be there.
That's what I want to know. How do I get the cheerleaders here? That's a good. No,
yeah. Well, this is now a college, not a pro team.
But I
But
tell you, Alex, when I was teaching the Redskins, we also taught the coach and his kids. And, we had, our big rival back then, and still pretty much today for our football, team, the Redskins Commanders, but was Dallas. And so he was trying to get the players psyched up. So we came in and then we had some boards, and he wrote these boards, two boards.
this was George Allen.
Yeah. With a sidekick, and on it said "Beat Dallas," and then he stepped in and hit it with a sidekick and broke the boards. Maybe your guy isn't, your coach isn't taking the lessons, but you could get him to do an elbow on a couple of those demo boards and write whoever their rival is, beat so and so, and get them psyched up for that. And we did beat Dallas that year, so it was a good omen for us that he wanted us to come back next year and do it again. And that's how I got a bunch of the players training with me in the off season. Obviously, they can't do it during the season, but in the off season, we had about a dozen, and we had the wives doing the cardio kickboxing. We had the kids doing the main program, and then I did a kickboxing program for the Redskin players. We got a lot of publicity from that too.
I forget who it was. One of our members down in Texas had Ted Nugent's wife teaching classes for him. She was running the cardio kickboxing classes, and then somebody else had who's the supermodel? She was a little bigger than most of them. I mean,
Cindy Crawford.
Cindy Crawford is tall but skinny. I'm talking about it'll come to me in a second. She was a Sports Illustrated a cover model, and she had had a couple of bit parts in movies and so forth. But she was a student of theirs at Elite MMA, among others. I mean, anytime, Alex, I'd like to get back to things that are likely to produce real students in a hurry, because you need 100 new students in a hurry. But anytime you can make yourself a celebrity in the area. Master Smith, one of the things I sent over to you was David Grohl of Nirvana and now Foo Fighters singing the June Rhee jingle that Nils Rothgren did. But June Rhee had done a really good job of making himself a celebrity in Washington, D.C. And of course, Master Smith was a celebrity, still is, throughout the martial arts community and in Washington, D.C. Amanda Olsen has done a really good job of making herself a local celebrity down in that area with the Master Mom thing and so forth. So anytime you can make yourself a celebrity in the area, for myself, I can tell you for years how I went to a little concert venue the other day, and the people standing behind me, immediately said, "You look like Stephen Oliver." And, they immediately recognized me from all the stuff that we did over the years. And I wasn't particularly trying to, celebritize myself, other than I appeared in the infomercials and so forth. But anytime you can make yourself a local celebrity, it's really useful. And anytime you can get a local celebrity to endorse what you're doing, especially if you take it, where they'll appear in ads and one thing or another. And if somebody likes you, it's really hard I call their agent and I offer to buy them to do stuff like that, many cases. But if they're a student and they like you and so forth, it becomes, well, of course I'll say nice things about you. We love what we're doing here, right? It's super easy. Although the example of Master Smith I'd used on buying celebrities, a friend of mine is in Chicago. And what was that guy's name? The Refrigerator Perry or whatever.
Yeah.
He bought him. He does a financial services company, but he bought him to do all kinds of stuff after he retired. And like a lot of those guys, when he was playing, he was very famous, and when he was not playing, he was digging ditches. So he managed to hire him very cheap, and got him in all of his commercials and so forth. But Alex, let's go back to something you said. I want to. As long as we have some real talent here, keep putting them to work. And by the way, Alex and Timothy, so you get the idea. Scott, what are you guys going to end up with for 2023? Would you say what's your gross going to be?
Closing on $1 million.
Yeah. So right about $1 million.
Yeah.
And if I have my way, you'll be 2 million next year because we're on a big growth curve. And Amanda, where are you going to finish the year?
Our goal is just right at $1 million. So
yeah, there you go. So and Timothy and Alex, that's both single school, right? Scott, you're doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu predominantly. Interestingly, you're a Muay Thai champion, but you're predominantly teaching Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Go figure.
Yeah. He's a very legitimate, champion kickboxer from back in the day.
Oh, and a legitimate BJJ black belt too.
Well, sure. Yeah, I'm just saying the fight career.
Yeah.
But on your school, Scott, if I remember correctly, it's 2,800 square feet, something like that.
24, yes, sir.
2,400 square feet.
Yeah.
So 2,400 square feet on the second floor
yes.
of the shopping center with parking problems.
Yes.
And doing $1 million a year should be at $2 million next year. Amanda, you have the opposite effect of, you're at the base of the Appalachians, one of the lowest per capita demographics in the country, and you have a warehouse pretty much. What are you at? About 9,000 square foot?
12.
Well, we have 12. Yes, you really are good at remembering numbers, Master Smith.
I tell you what, that school is that is the most beautiful school that and you have to realize that's 60 years and being at thousands of schools, and I've never seen a school that would rival yours at all. And it's all brand new, and it was an old train station, I believe, that they converted into some businesses. And I think you have like a steak place on one side, you got ice cream on the other. It's just amazing. I love it. And it sits up on top of a hill that looks down into the little town.
So Amanda, it's perfect once you have 1,700 active students.
You have plenty of room to grow. But you're doing enough to pay for it. You got a good deal. Let's
stay on topic here. Don't get this.
Well,
distracted.
To be fair, yes, I did help somebody renovate this incredible space, and I was blessed for that.
There you go.
Well, to make it clear, my school with 2,800 square feet, I was paying almost as much as hers with the 12,000 square feet, and mine didn't look a tenth as good.
Yeah. I understand. I was just trying to give them an example. Alex, let's go back to something you said a couple minutes ago. Okay, and I want to hone in on two things you said and put these guys to work as much as we can. And Timothy, don't just jump in here because we don't want to not hit all your things. Is Alex, write this down, put a big star, highlight it, and put it on your desk. Don't do anything slow. Do everything fast. It's easier, cheaper, less stressful to add 100 students in 6 to 8 weeks than it is to add 100 students in 12 to 18 months. Okay? It's easier and less stress to have 32 things going on, and you wake up at dawn and go to bed exhausted, and you fill the place up. It's better for your mental health. It's better for your attitude. It's better for your school to do that than it is to drag it out. Okay? So one of the things you said is we're on the right track. We're going slowly. My most famous Oklahoman perhaps is Will Rogers. And my favorite quote of Will Rogers is, even if you're on the right track, that doesn't mean you won't get run over by a speeding locomotive. Okay? Doing it slow doesn't work. You got to do it fast, right?
Yes, sir.
Number two, when it comes to a church youth group, great, except you have one problem. I go in and I teach the church youth group. Who is not there?
Parents.
The parents, right? So what you've got to keep in mind is the format I mentioned before is when you're at any program with kids, you have two types of scenarios. Scenario one, where the parents are there, back to school day, carnival, fair, whatever it might be. And then you have scenarios where the kids are there by themselves. anytime you have a scenario where the kids are by themselves, you've got to get permission slips ahead of time or get the full roster of the kids with all their contact information. A lot of organizations are hesitant for good reason to give you the roster. Some are not. I found daycares, they would show up with a bus, get off the bus, hand me the list of who's on the bus. That's not a big deal. But most of them are hesitant. So that means I've got to have permission slips. It goes out to the parents ahead of time. The parent fills it out. I get the contact information, right? I also, if at all possible, if I'm going to do something like that, I want to get in front of 500 of them rather than 12, right? And is it a path to get to the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts? And sure. On the other hand, I can, I know where the local Boy Scout headquarters is. I can go down to the local Boy Scout headquarters and I can get a list of every pack in an area of town. And then I have the list of all the troop leaders and I can just go contact all the troop leaders directly. Or I can do what Brandy said, which is I talk to all my students first, find out what they're involved with, and go at it that way as well. But if I wanted to set up Boy Scout troops, what I don't do is I don't do 12 kids at the church and then figure out if somebody of there is involved with Boy Scouts and then go set up one pack, which is 6 kids or something like that, or one troop. What is it? A pack is 6 kids. A troop is like 30 or 40 of them, right? It's different tiers. What I want to do is go straight to the source. I say, well, I'm going to work on Boy Scouts. Okay, fine. I get the list of all of them, contact all of them, set up things, find out when their pack meeting is. And we've done hundreds of those things, by the way. Most successful live event we did ever in the each year was the Boy Scout Jamboree. That was Boy Scouts from all over the metro area. They had 40,000 Boy Scouts and Webelos and Cub Scouts and everything all there at the same time. Well, that was something we could set up a booth. We could actually have an intro class going on during the thing. We could have the parents fill out the sheet while the kids were taking the little class. We could do the whole thing, and we would literally leave with like those big black leaf bag trash bags full of leads from the thing. But so when you do something, there's one or two types of events. Kids are present, or kids are present, no parents. Kids with parents are involved. If the kids are there without parents, you got to get the list and or preferably permission slips. Sometimes you can do, and this was Matt Smith. I think Toby was the first one that started doing this. Toby Milroy. We get him to go do a daycare, and then he'd send a staff member out at 5 o'clock and make appointments when kids were picked up from the parents. Same thing with the youth group. I mean, if you go in and do the youth group and the parents come pick them up, you can hang out, wait for the parents and sign them up right then. But you've got to keep those two things in mind. But if you're going to do churches, go do every church in your area. And some of them will say no, right? But if you got 30 churches in a broader area, go talk to all of them and make it a week or two and get 15 or 20 of them done. If you're going to do scouts, then find out where all of your students go to church and scouts and schools and line them up that way. But also go to the district headquarters and get the list. Every year we did that with Girl Scouts. We'd get all the leaders, and then we would get, before summer, we'd get all the little summer camp things they were doing. And I could just go walk into the district headquarters. They knew me. They knew what we were doing. We had a relationship with them. They'd give us a list of everybody. And then, of course, they want people supporting what they're doing. So it wasn't a problem at all. When we
every time you do one of those church groups, make sure on their letterhead you get a letter of recommendation from them. So then you have those in a book, all in the clear binder, and then you show the other churches, look, we've done this, and this is what they had to say. And so you put a little packet together about your school and some letters of testimonials and things like that, and that's going to help sell the program for you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. But I wanted to leapfrog off of two things you said, right? Is what small schools do is they move slow into bankruptcy. Okay. what you've got to do is move fast into critical mass. And so what you've got to be thinking of is every night I go to bed, I take my blank legal pad going, here, and I go, what are 10 things I could do tomorrow to line up new traffic? And I put my subconscious to work on it overnight. And then in the morning, I go to Starbucks or someplace where my phone's turned off and nobody's going to bother me. And I say, what should I be doing today? And then I get to work and I do marketing from, whenever I motivate myself out of bed until the first class is. And I go work with elementary schools, churches, go to Boy Scout headquarters, go to Girl Scout headquarters. Amanda, you were saying a minute ago, I can go get inside all the moms groups, but I can get inside the Next Door Neighbor app. I can get inside the city app, their stuff. And what we tend to find is the park and rec groups tend to have big events around Halloween and Easter and so forth. The churches obviously have, Christmas, Easter, Thanksgiving stuff go on. The malls tend to have a lot of stuff go on, obviously holiday shopping, but Easter and different events. But if I go track what's happening at the local shopping mall and I'm on their newsletter list, and I track what's happening at the local city level or cities and track what they have going, and I used to pre-internet, my routine was going, driving around to 6 different locations. I always did a different route, and I'd stop by the community centers, and I'd stop by the parks, and I'd stop by the churches, and I'd stop by the elementary schools, and I'd just walk in and make sure I was on their newsletter list and get, and ask them what they had going on. Did they have any events coming up? That kind of stuff. And a lot of it was just wandering around in the community. And I'll give you an example. We had one of our franchisees who was just absolutely parroting what you just said. Well, we're making slow progress. And I said exactly the same thing to them. This is probably a 20-year-old story. And I went up there and I said, I just got in the car and I said, well, let's go over to the closest community center. And they looked at me and said, well, we don't know where it is. I said, well, that's a problem. Let's figure out where it is and let's go over there. How many are there up in this area? This way, they were in Boulder, Colorado. Well, we don't know. Well, let's look it up. And so we went to all of them. And I said, you might want to take a mental note that the first thing I did when I get what got in your cars, I said, let's go to the community centers. Now, what are the biggest churches in the area? Now let's go visit all of the elementary schools. And they hadn't done any of that stuff. Well, why hadn't they done any of that stuff? Because, one of them was sitting at his computer all day long redesigning flyers that we had already been using because he thought he could do a better job. And the wife who was running the school spent all evening talking to parents, to make sure they felt good about things. But it never came up what Scout Troop, Girl Scout, Boy Scout, daycare, elementary school, what sports activities they were involved with, who the coaches were, any of that stuff. Does that make sense?
Yes,
and what happens is if you're not focused on how can I get 100 things going and start with the highest priority, the biggest hit stuff, then what you do is you just kind of sit there and bleed out, right? And you get frustrated because you dink around with stuff that has poor results, and instead of going and hitting a home run after home run after home run.
I think recognizing my biggest mistake is focusing too much on internal marketing when I don't have the volume to get results out of it.
Yeah, you really should do nothing with internal marketing until you're at 100 to 150 students.
Yes, sir.
When Amanda, what are you running now? About 320 or something?
We're just under 400, sir.
Just under 400. Okay. And Scott, you had a big burst recently too.
Yeah. We lost a bunch in September, but we're over 250, 300 right now.
Yeah. But when you're at their level, you really should be able to replace everybody who drops out predominantly through internal activities if you focus on it tightly enough. And the only issue with that, if you already have a student body of people that you rounded up in your community that's the right fit, then it's easy for them to go find other people that are a good fit because they know them. Occasionally, what's happened is somebody's filled up their school at, like Amanda, when you started with us, filled up your school with everybody paying less than $100 a month, and then you don't want to raise the price to $300 a month and then have them go bird dog, your replacements, right? Sometimes what you've got to do is you've got to go find a new audience and bring them in. You've always got to decide, do I have more like what I want, or do I want to go find a new audience and pull them in? Does that make sense? Timothy,
Yes,
you've
sir.
been kind of quiet. Do you have any questions?
No, sir. I'm just taking it in and percolating over here.
Yeah. I wanted to hit a couple of things earlier on, and Jeff, chip in here if you have any questions here. I see you joined us. We've got a few other people in the background. Well, quite a few other people in the background that aren't on video. Guys, feel free to turn your video on so we know
And
you're
I'd like to thank Jeff again for flying out and filming the event. Him and Lynn are going to do a little editing on that, and we'll be sharing it with us soon. So thanks a lot. I know you put a lot of time in that. Just want to make sure we appreciated it.
Absolutely. Three things real quick. I'm just going to hit this one quick. Is we do have our next live member event. Hopefully I shared the right screen there. I don't want Amanda give me a hard time again for sharing the wrong wallpaper. But we have our live instructor training boot camp and black belt retreat coming up less than a month now. The two events were about a month apart in Breckenridge, Colorado. So just as a reminder, and this is going to be all in uniform, all floor systems, very teaching focused. What I wanted,
Master Oliver, can I make a correction for you? If that Beaver Run is, if you're talking about 23, Friday is actually November the 10th. So it would be the 10th, 11th, and 12th.
Okay. So there's a typo on that, or is that? Oh, that was last year's.
Yeah,
well, I pulled up the wrong one for today, but it is.
Because that says 22, not 23.
Yeah, I
so
pulled
we're
up
pretty close to the last one, but we're off by a day.
It is at the same place, and it's off by a day. But that's right. It's the second weekend in November, and it is at Beaver Run Resort and Conference Center.
10, 11, and 12.
That's what I get for multitasking and pulling that up to share.
That's okay. That's why you have me here.
Yeah, that's. I always wondered that.
Somebody has to call out your mistakes.
Yeah.
Dark as a tack.
Yeah, there you go. The thing and we've hit it pretty thoroughly, but the primary, we're on module 1 here. The primary thing that we were focused on covering today was live events, and I think we hit it pretty thoroughly. Except I'm not sure we talked mall kiosk in November, December. Certainly Black Friday through Christmas is something that's big, and we are going to be back into the season of some big blockbusters coming out. We've got the next I forget what it's called, but it's the Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory parable, the prequel to Willy Wonka. We have the next big Marvel, which is the Marvels, that's coming out, and there's a couple of others that I keep forgetting in the.
I think this weekend, Master Oliver, is actually a pretty. I think this movie's going to do really good. Is the DiCaprio Killers of the Flower Moon?
Yeah, not exactly a kids and family movie, but we are going to be back into the season. So if you're in a big AMC theater, 24-plex with a blockbuster weekend, I think our record. And this was in Dallas, was 850 leads in 2 weekends. But I wanted to make sure that we had covered all of our pieces here. But the general principle here, and this is the one thing we haven't gotten to, so I want to make sure we got to it. The two major principles is, number one, always have a ton of stuff going on. And number 2 is always know your conversion ratios and track your numbers. So, for instance, when it comes to these live events, and the number 3 down here, the purpose is always to generate a lead, not just pass out information. Alex, I think I beat that one over the head, but you know, I can bring the demo team and entertain everybody. I can get up and give a speech, but if I don't have their name, address, phone number, email address, etc., and then I don't aggressively follow up, usually it turns into little or nothing, right?
Yeah, and we do still hand out the guest pass thing, 2 free weeks, but you're not going to get it unless you follow up on your end.
Yeah, yeah. Now, and then the conversion ratios, and this is an example of a couple of different conversion ratio examples. But with a live event, what we typically find is, so let's say it's a classic, they spin the prize wheel, win a prize. We'll get, before they spin the wheel, they fill out the contact information. Then they spin the wheel and we go, high five, congratulations, you won a free martial arts ninja teddy bear and a black belt, whatever the hell it is. Let's say it's free uniform. And we schedule the appointment. The conversion ratio it'll be 100% of everybody that we interact with will fill out the lead form. And of course, some of them give you a fake phone number or something, but still it's 100%. But then of those, typically 90% anymore will make an appointment on the spot. As long as you have the script and you know how to deal with, I got to go check with wife, husband, check my schedule. And that's just, let's pencil something in and schedule it tentatively. But then of those, more or less worst case scenario is half of them show up for an introductory class and then half of them enroll. So Scott, I think you said 220 appointments. Did I get that right last weekend?
That is correct. Yes, we got a little over 50% to show already. So it's looking good.
Good.
There you go. There you go. Now here's the problem. I've got one school that's already pretty full with 2,400 square feet, and I have 100 intros in a week.
Yeah.
We just making it work.
I kicked all the parents out
nicely. And we just have and they know that in October, we ask them to stay outside. And then we bring them back as soon as the trial is over. Yeah. And Scott does not tell them. I tell them, or one of my girls tells them in a nice way. And they're always super sweet. And then we just make space. They already knew. We all know it. We call it Rocktober. So we just make space.
Rocktober.
And anyone who complains.
Like that.
We just share with them, oh, this is just temporary. Don't worry. And it is temporary. So.
Yeah.
But very few complaints.
But there you've got over 100 intros in a week. And what I was going to say is the problem is it's easy to get overwhelmed. That's the drinking from the fire hose syndrome. And when you do it the first time, usually everything goes to hell. And at the second time you get better, and the third time you get better, and then you really get on top of it. But the conversion ratios, 90% make an appointment, half or more show up, half or more enroll. And so 220, 110, 50 to 60 would be the normal ratios. And again, the only reason it would fall off is everybody gets overwhelmed and people end up coming in the door and don't get their next appointment scheduled, or we get stacked up and don't have time to actually enroll them. So you've got to learn to stage manage that effectively. And as Amanda and Jeff and Scott can tell you, typically by month 2 or 3, our guys their biggest problem is, oh my God, I don't need anything more marketing to do. I need to figure out how to deal with drinking from a fire hose. Amanda, is that a fair assessment? Yeah.
Can I caution everybody just to make sure some members miss these 2 important things. And one is that when you're approaching them, you want to spin the wheel and win a prize. Come over and spin the wheel and win a prize. And they say they're going to fill it out. Make sure that you say to them, everybody who spins the wheel gets 2 weeks free plus whatever they get on the wheel. And then on the wheel, don't forget to have a couple birthday parties and call them karate birthday parties or BJJ birthday parties, or you call them a pizza party, and it can be a karate pizza party or a karate birthday party. Have a couple of those on there, because one person can bring you 10 or 20 people at one of those events. And And the second thing I'd tell you is to make sure on your slip that you're having them fill out that you have your intro schedule on there already. And all you have to do is circle the one they're going to do, and then give them your business card with on the back of it the appointment date and time. That way they have a small card that they can put in their purse or wallet to help them remember the time, and tell them that so they can come by and take their first free class and pick up their prize. Do not give the prizes out at the event.
Well, Andy, I think you said it, but I always give them as big a packet of information as I can rustle up, including lots of testimonials and stuff like that. And I want to make sure that I get my contact record in their phone nowadays. The problem with cell phones is that if they have an unrecognized number, they don't answer the phone. Master Smith, we just the other thing that we just got some of actually is those little black cards.
Yeah, look at this, Master Oliver. See my phone? Did you see what fell out of it?
There you go.
That's my dot card, and I keep it right there in my case.
Yeah. So what that does is you can tap their phone, and it'll collect a lead, and it'll share your contact information to their phone.
My next tattoo.
What? Oh, yeah. You know, the problem with that is technology changes so quickly that it, you got a 2-year window and then it's irrelevant. But yeah, this is interesting. It's what is it? Dot something or other.
.com.
Powered by Dot. Is it .com? I don't know, but
it's just dot spelled, and then there's the actual period dot and com.
No, it's .cards. DOT.cards. But if they here's what happens. I'm not sure you can see it, but you tap the phone, and it brings up their website, and then it lets you share. Moving kind of slow here, but it lets you share your contacts. So they hit say contact, and now they got my full contact record in their phone. And it also brings up a little line that says exchange contacts, and it lets them fill out a lead form in their system. But it's just a little tool to get, to do a more complete contact record there, and then it automatically shares. And so if you tap it and some reason the near field communication doesn't work, they can QR code it, and it shares. It's just another little tool. But there's all kinds of these things where you can have a bracelet and they tap it. There's a little, standing deal. But you want to get your contact record into their phone. What we've done for years is just fill out a contact record and text it over to them. But anytime you're face-to-face or anytime you're on the phone with them, if you're on the phone with them, you say, this is your mobile number. Great. Here, I'm going to text you over our contact record. Just tap it and tap add to contacts, and now you have our full contact information in your phone. But that way, what it does is it whitelists your emails and it whitelists your text and phone calls. So like the way I have my iPhone set up, if somebody calls me and they're not in my contacts, it doesn't ring the phone. If somebody texts me and it's not in my contacts, it doesn't notify me, and I have to go look for it. But if they're in my contact record, it rings and it shows me immediately. So they're, but even if their phone isn't set up that way, most people nowadays don't answer an unknown number. Timothy, you got a lot to work with?
Yes, sir. I'm all set over here. I got a lot of stuff I still have to implement, so I'm good.
Alex, start every day with tripling your caffeine intake and light a torch under your ass, and let's get a big list of stuff going on.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anybody have any questions at all about anything? Jeff, we had a marvelous view of your ear for a good chunk of the conversation. I want to applaud you on your hygiene.
Oh, and I want to congratulate Jeff on his video. I guess it was a test you were getting ready to have that you were all excited about on your social media page that you posted. Was was good. I liked it.
So what I'm doing now is I'm doing shorts and reels, and I'm taking a course to go ahead and develop some more reels. And my goal is to go ahead and post every day.
Good.
Right now, yeah.
Yeah,
that's a new technology.
That is something that's getting a lot of eyeballs. So it's probably worth, it's worth learning how to do it yourself and then delegating it to a teenager to get a bunch of stuff out.
Yes, sir.
And getting it out everywhere. So getting it out on TikTok, getting it out on Twitter, getting it out on Threads, getting it out on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn.
Master Oliver, I started doing that when you passed that Vigio.ai site to us. It's so easy to use. I bought the yearly membership, and I started just making those shorts and just putting them on Instagram. I can't tell you how many parents in the last month or two have said, "Oh, I saw you. I came in because I saw you on Instagram." It was just, it was simplest things,
Yeah, and very little of the organic stuff is working very well, but that is working right now, and I've been doing it across all the platforms that aren't necessarily video centric, because it seems like all the platforms are trying to, are trying to catch up with TikTok on that stuff. So doing shorts on YouTube and reels on, whatever. What is it? Is it reels on Facebook and Instagram and shorts on YouTube? But just get them out everywhere.
Yeah.
And that was Vigio.ai.
It's I'll show it to you here real quick, but Vidyo.ai. Here's the app. Share screen. There are a couple of other options. This is the one that I've used, but it's that came across fine. So it's pricing. It's $29 or $49 a month. So I think $29 a month is plenty. That's 300 minutes a month of upload. And the way it literally looks is like this, where you upload videos, and then it'll automatically. So like if I pick this one, there you are, Master Smith. Now it doesn't want to cooperate.
Did you click?
Yeah, my trackpad is not reading it or something. But the internet is flaky, and maybe it's because I'm on a video conference as well. But if I clicked any one of these, if it would work, it would be pulled up to however many clips they could pull up from this. So there you go, review clips. And then in this case, it was a pretty short piece, so it came up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 clips that are 57 seconds, 55, 26, 35, 44, 48. This one's a minute 21, so it's a little long for some of the platforms. And then I can format it in whatever size I want to do. So I can do portrait, which is what reels and shorts and so forth, like this one. But it'll let me, like this, the video was positioned wrong. It'll let me adjust it. Or I can go over here. The glucose goddess. Well, that didn't quite hit it. Teaching kids to succeed in school and life. But you get the idea, and then I can go in and I can just add, a direct. I could add an offer, or I could add a drive to the website. I think at the $49, it also gives you a chance to just upload a comment template. Everything just gets downloaded in the comment template.
Awesome.
But you get the idea. It is very inexpensive. But again, the application would be, if you go out and do a little, an hour seminar in front of the students on some topic, or you just have clips of you doing mat chats, you can upload it. And like if I had an hour little seminar, it probably turns it into 15 or 20 clips, and then I've got enough content for for all month, and then use it that way. Or you can pull Zoom meetings off if you want to, that type of stuff. but then it's just every day getting one or two of them up on all the different platforms. And even on platforms you wouldn't think of as video platforms like LinkedIn, get a lot of views. So Twitter is turning into a video platform. Facebook and YouTube are trying to compete with TikTok. So, historically YouTube has only been long form videos really, but now short form is getting a lot of traffic as well. So it's one way. And again, Alex, this is something that if you already have a bunch of stuff going on, this adds to the roster, like having bandit signs. If you don't have much going on, you go do 120 little video clips and all of a sudden you don't see anything and it doesn't feel like it's working, right? Okay. Anybody have any quick questions? If not, we'll call it a day. Okay. Thanks, guys. Talk to you soon. Oh, and Amanda, did you get those lists finally?
Yes, I did. Thank you so much. Yes. I replied this morning, but yeah, I was very excited.
The recording has
that
stopped.
Took a lot of effort. I got to tell you.
I'm really sorry, but I appreciate it.
I was afraid you might have thought I was ignoring you, and and I wasn't. I sent a bunch of times. It just obviously on your end or in the middle, it was getting blocked with too much.
Well, I appreciate you and appreciate you clarifying that too. So.
Yeah, those were all current, I think, and they had a pretty good breakdown of Canada, U.S., one thing or another. And but again, it does kind of illustrate. I mean, in order to do something, when I launched the Extraordinary Marketing thing the first time, I used the same grand opening plan that I used for the schools.
Okay.
So I took the 18,000 names or whatever it was back then, and I did 3 postcards and hit them again. And then after that, I did like a longer form letter in an envelope and hit them again. And I was doing email and all kinds of other stuff, but what launched it was the direct mail. Now, 18,000 postcards at 75 cents a piece in today's cost, it's a bit of an investment.
Right.
But that's the way I really launched it.
Well, I was listening to you today, don't start slow.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what you're doing.
Yeah, and I was doing, back then you could get away with it more, but we were scraping all the websites for email addresses and doing basically a spam newsletter that at one time had 8,000 or 9,000, on the list, and that got some traffic. But 2 things have happened. 20 years later, launching with cold email is practically impossible.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2 is back then people were getting 10 emails a day. I'll tell you a funny story about that, though. I was hanging out with Matt Smith and I were hanging out with Bernie Carrick in New York one time. And for some reason, he walks us into the local martial arts supply store that he liked to hang out. And they have this, I forget the name, but it's a really big, it's New York City, really big martial arts supply store. And I walk in with Jeff Smith and Bernie Carrick. And the guy behind the counter immediately, as we walked through the door, said, "Stephen Oliver, just read your newsletter this morning."
Oh, that's funny.
And Carrick looks at me and he goes, "Is there anybody who doesn't know who you are?" I said, "Well, I'm very famous in a very tiny little sliver
You're
of
in a
people,
martial arts.
I said, "We walk around New York and you get treated like you're the governor." And I walk into the martial arts supply store and he immediately knows me. That's
awesome. He didn't recognize Bernard Carrick.
No, he did. No,
he did. Okay.
He knew him because Carrick hung out there a lot.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
But the minute we walked in the door, he immediately just couldn't stop talking to me about the newsletter and what I said, and all this different stuff. And Bernie would shake his head like, what the hell?
That's awesome. That's a good story.
The other funny one, by the way, you'll appreciate this, is my son is we go to a lot of movies, and it's always, the stunt guy I'll recognize one thing or another. I'll be saying I know him, or Michael J. White is in it. I'll say I know him, and he's always like, he's always like, yeah, a guy who knows a guy.
Right.
And one day I get this like text or call from him, and he goes, "You didn't tell me Jeff was really a celebrity." And I'm like, really? I mean, this is like a couple months ago, What gave you that idea? After all this time. He had Googled him, and he came to the Wikipedia listing and a bunch of other stuff. And all of a sudden it like clicked to him that like this guy I hang out with, who like takes me shopping, and
uncle,
we hang out with, is like this famous karate guy.
That's amazing.
Like,
I bet Jeff appreciated that.
oh, he thought it was funny as hell.
Yeah, I'm sure he did.
Because my son's always like, yeah, you tell me people know who you are, but nobody knows who you are. It's like, well, yeah, but why is it every time we go anywhere in town, people know who I am?
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. That is a good story too.
Anyway, okay. Well, yeah, if you want to brainstorm on any of this stuff, just let me know. I mean, I'll help you any way you can.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I would like to. I mentioned it. Oh, sorry, Bob.
Yeah, that's what you need me to set a follow up, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. How is get a little crazy?
I got to jump off here, but go ahead and take it.
Right, make me don't boot me. Make me host, sir.
Don't do a Greg Moody.
Don't do a Greg Moody. So next week, I could 3:30 Monday, or else we're looking at Thursday.
Okay, let me get to next week.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's October. That would help if I got in the right month.
We're almost through this month already. I can't believe how fast
it's.
It's
there is definitely some sort of time work going on.
I know.
What time next Thursday would work?
You could do noon, or 1, or after the quick start meeting.
If we could do it would be 3:30 Eastern.
Right.
That would be great.
Okay. All right. Let me put that in. And yeah, there we go. Okay, all done.
All right, thank you, sir. I really appreciate it.
You bet. Have a great day.
All right, you too. Bye-bye.
Bye.